This is a warning for anyone listening. It doesn't matter who you are, something can go wrong when you least expect it. These 7 stories don't begin with danger. Instead, they start with people living their everyday lives, trusting those nearby on days that felt perfectly normal. These stories are 100% true, and most thought nothing was wrong until it was too late. Number 7. Beneath the depths of the deep blue sea, a woman vanished from a boat in the middle of the night, leaving no evidence. Sarm Heslop, a British woman from Southampton, was enjoying life with her partner Ryan Bain of Michigan. The two shared a love for the sea, which they traveled together on Bain's catamaran, named the Siren Song. During the last weeks of winter 2021, the couple were spending time on the U.S. Virgin Islands, an overseas territory in the Caribbean. Sarm and Bain met via the Tinder dating app the year prior and appeared to hit it off from the start. Sarm was previously a flight attendant before leaving to assist Bain with his luxury yacht company. On March 7, 2021, Ryan and Sarm moored in Cruz Bay, then headed to shore for some recreation around the town. Witnesses stated the couple appeared calm, nothing to suspect any kind of tension or even the slightest thing wrong. After having dinner and drinks at a harbor restaurant, the couple returned to their boat around 8:45 p.m. A curfew was still active on the island because of health and safety restrictions at the time. According to Bain, he and Sarm were in bed and asleep by 11 p.m., but when Bain awoke 3 hours later, Sarm was nowhere to be found. He searched the boat, but she wasn't on board. Deeply concerned, Bain took the dinghy back to the island and reported her missing to the police. However, the police advised Bain to contact the Coast Guard, and he returned to the boat, but reports have said the Coast Guard was not contacted until around 11 a.m., a gap of 9 hours. A search of the surrounding waters and coastline, using drones, people on the ground, and boats, found no trace of Sarm. When authorities notified Sarm's family of her disappearance, her family began publicly questioning what had happened in the hours that followed. According to others moored nearby, they were not alerted to an emergency during the hours before the Coast Guard was contacted. Another witness, who was walking his dog that night, thought he heard a scream coming from the direction of the ocean, around the time frame of when Sarm vanished. Though this was never confirmed or linked to the case, family and friends described her as a strong swimmer and conscious of safety. The idea that she would suddenly decide to take a late-night swim was out of character. Bain initially invited police to search his boat, but this was later rescinded on the advice of his lawyer. Local police later issued civil citations, but no criminal charges were filed and no warrant search was carried out. As of recording this episode, it has not been publicly confirmed that Bain has been formally questioned by detectives, nor has a forensics team done a sweep of the boat. In late 2021, the yacht was listed for sale, and reporting noted its name had been removed. Sarm's family have petitioned to have the boat seized and searched, but no further details are available if this will move forward. The BBC produced a documentary surrounding the case, in which new details have emerged. In the program, CCTV footage is shown of Bain and Sarm walking together at 8:43 back to their dinghy. This footage was originally shown to Sarm's family 3 years prior, which shows some inconsistencies with previous testimony. The dress Sarm was reportedly wearing on the night was not the clothing she was wearing in the footage. It was originally stated she was wearing a black dress with flowers decorated on it, but the footage shows her wearing a skirt and a top. The black dress is one of her belongings that was never returned to her family, leading them to believe this is what she was wearing when she disappeared. One key detail was noticed by BBC journalist Tier Dondi during her coverage of the story. Dondi spent some time in the Virgin Islands researching Sarm's disappearance, and she was given access to CCTV footage by the police. Dondi said the timestamp doesn't match Bain's version of events. He stated they reached the boat at 10 p.m., but the time on the CCTV was recorded at 8:45 p.m. Dondi had taken a dinghy to the spot where Bain's boat was anchored and timed it at 10 minutes travel. This means Bain and Sarm would have arrived at approximately 9 p.m. This leaves an entire hour unaccounted for. Police have said they wanted to speak with him further, but on legal advice he declined. 4 years after Sarm's disappearance, Bain released a 5-page statement proclaiming his innocence. In it, he described their relationship as full of love and care, and he had been painted with a, quote, false sense of suspicion, defended his actions to, quote, safeguard my rights when he attained a lawyer, and refused police access to the boat. and added, "My decision was framed as suspicious rather than prudent." Bain has not been charged with any crime and denies involvement, but the unanswered questions have continued to trouble Sarm's family and investigators. What happened after Sarm returned to the boat that night has never been established, and no evidence has publicly confirmed how or why she disappeared. Number 6. Some creature was stirring. This harmless-looking live stream turned out to be something far more disturbing than anyone realized. Stephen McCullough was a YouTuber from Northern Ireland who released content under the name VoteSaxon07. Stephen's content was largely focused on toy reviews and unboxings, mostly from the cult classic television series Doctor Who. While not on the same level as Markiplier or Smosh, Stephen maintained a devoted fan base who enjoyed his in-depth and often silly review videos. While Doctor Who remained his favorite piece of media, Robot Wars was a very close second. His love for the series and his content gained the attention of Robot Wars participants. During the show's 9th series, Team S-Tech brought Stephen on board as part of their media relations. Much to his delight and the delight of his fans, he was promoted to an on-screen presence the following year. Aside from the usual videos he would release, Stephen was not shy about sharing aspects of his personal life. In his vlogs, he would frequently discuss and even include his family and friends. Behind the scenes, Stephen was perceived as a loyal and kind friend. He even began a serious relationship with a woman named Natalie McNally. On the surface, the relationship appeared to be a fairy tale romance. Even more exciting for the couple and Stephen's fans was when it was revealed Natalie was pregnant with their first child. Stephen's life appeared to be headed in a great direction. He was about to be a father. He achieved his dream of appearing on Robot Wars, and his content was becoming more popular among fans of the different series he made content about. It was a big surprise to his fans when on December 18, 2022, Stephen announced a surprise YouTube stream only 2 hours before it was scheduled to start. It came as a shock to those who followed him, because Stephen had streamed little in the past. The lack of warning gave a combined surprised and delighted reaction from his fans, who immediately prepared to tune into the show. Titled The Violent Night Christmas, Stephen planned to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City, among other games, throughout the night to celebrate the holidays with his viewers. The stream started off as many would expect. Stephen addressed why he streamed with such short notice, then revealed that because of technical difficulties, he could not see the live chat. Not wanting this to ruin the night, he asked chat to talk amongst themselves. The stream itself was nothing out of the ordinary. He played through much of Vice City's storyline for several hours before switching over to the Robot Wars console game during the last hour of the stream. When he was finished, he wished his viewers good night, happy holidays, and then signed off. All seemed well and normal, but the next day, viewers got a massive shock. Emergency services received a call from Stephen to the home of Natalie the following morning. He claimed he arrived at Natalie's home and discovered her severely injured from what appeared to be an attack. Sadly, nothing could be done to save Natalie by the time first responders arrived. Stephen was taken to the police station for questioning, and at that stage, investigators believed the livestream could account for his whereabouts. A police investigation dug up several witnesses and CCTV footage of a man traveling by bus from Dunmurry to Lurgan, a 90-minute ride. The man was described as wearing a gray hoodie, dark pants, and carrying a green shopping bag. The bus driver saw the man drop change while paying. He observed the man wore 2 glove sets, winter gloves over yellow latex ones. CCTV captured the same man walking into the townhouse complex Natalie lived in. Neighbors told police they heard some noises and what sounded like a woman's scream around 9 p.m. Before things went quiet, CCTV captured the man leaving the complex around 9:30. Sometime later, a cab driver picked up the man and brought him to Lisburn. The man paid the fare and walked into a nearby house. Police said the man's description and appearance was consistent with Stephen's build and general description. Also, he lived in Lisburn, and the location the cab driver dropped him off was only a short walk from Stephen's home. According to investigators, this became an area of interest in the inquiry, but at that stage, investigators believed the livestream could account for his whereabouts. Deciding to dig even deeper, detectives got access to Stephen's computer. As they dug through the files, police alleged the live stream had been pre-recorded. Using technical investigation skills, investigators say they recovered a deleted file which they allege contains a pre-recorded version of the live stream. Police also searched Stephen's phone and found a recording of Natalie's parents, made without their knowledge. Stephen visited her parents soon after her death, and police later said his phone recorded audio at their home without their knowledge. The recording lasted for approximately an hour before he returned, saying he had forgotten his phone. According to investigators, it is believed Stephen recorded the McNallys to determine if they suspected him of the crime. Based on these pieces of evidence, Stephen McCullough was arrested and charged. As his arrest became headline news, the live stream became viral. As of January 2026, Stephen remains in custody while awaiting trial. Stephen McCullough denies the charge, and no verdict has been reached. The trial was adjourned until the new year in November 2025. It is considered the first time a fake live stream has been used as an alibi in such a high-profile case. Number 5. The true nightmare was when he woke up. A man walked into a police station and told officers he thought he had killed 2 people without remembering how. All he remembered were flashes of images. The next thing he knew, he awoke at the wheel, driving through Scarborough's busy streets at night, his heart racing. He sped toward the nearest police station and ran inside. He leaned onto the front desk, startling the receptionist, and then he cried, "I think I just killed 2 people," he said between sobs. As officers at the station tried to assess the situation before them, emergency responders were at the horrific scene. A woman was lying motionless on the ground, while her husband was experiencing breathing difficulties. The victims were Dennis and Barbara Woods, both in their early 40s. The couple had been attacked in their home by their son-in-law, Kenneth Parks. As news spread of the attack on police radio, the officers at the station realized the perpetrator was the same man who burst in sobbing. What led to this moment? Why did Parks suddenly attack his in-laws, people he adored and who adored him back? Why couldn't Parks fully remember what happened? To explain this, we need to dive back in time, before their world was changed forever. Kenneth Parks was described as a loving individual. He had known the Woods family for years, having met their daughter while the two were in high school. Parks' wife was rebellious, and for a time had a strained relationship with her parents. That was until she met Kenneth, and the two formed a strong connection. It was even through Kenneth's suggestion that she reconciled with her family. He saw the Woods family as the one he wished he had. He shared a good relationship with Barbara. When the moment came and Kenneth proposed to their daughter, Barbara and Dennis were overwhelmed with joy. To them, it was a dream come true and a perfect match. It wouldn't be a tremendous step for them, as Kenneth was already welcomed as a member of the family. This picture does not present a man with violent tendencies, nor show resentment towards his in-laws. To everyone who knew him, this random act was light years away from his character. Relatives and friends described him as a gentle giant. When his wife visited him at the police station, she expected an explanation. Instead, she left with even more questions than before. Parks could not explain why he did it, nor could he even recall a complete picture of the events. Nothing made sense even to him. All he knew is he committed a horrible act, and his life would never be the same. Once Dennis was well enough, he spoke with detectives about what happened. He said Kenneth suddenly appeared at their door around 4 a.m. and let himself in with a spare key. He wandered around making incoherent grunts. When Barbara attempted to speak with him, Kenneth suddenly attacked. She fled and Kenneth went upstairs, where he attacked Dennis. Police further discovered the knife belonged to Dennis and Barbara, leading them to believe Barbara had grabbed it and presented it to deter Kenneth from attacking any further. Instead, he grabbed the knife by the blade and disarmed her. That's when he resumed his assault on Barbara before leaving the house. Tragically, Barbara did not survive. Detectives dug deeper into Kenneth's personal life. His wife revealed Kenneth had become addicted to gambling, incurring a large amount of debt. In order to cover the losses, he began embezzling money from his job until he was discovered and fired. With his wife pregnant with their first child, Kenneth lied, saying he found a new job and began making bets on horse racing again. As his debts increased, he borrowed from loan sharks and then began forging his wife's signature to take money from her account. When she found out, she was furious and banished him to sleeping on the couch. Kenneth spent several nights sleepless, believing his marriage was over and his life was in shambles. However, his wife spoke with him the next day with a plan. They would sell their house, repay their employer, and then start over fresh, but they would need to seek the help of his wife's parents. This meant he would have to admit his faults to the people he treasured, a thought which terrified him. Despite this, he agreed, wishing to both save his marriage and come clean about what he had done. While this presented a new addition to Kenneth's character, it still failed to explain his actions. Kenneth's family history revealed a pattern of parasomnia, a sleep disorder characterized by abnormal behaviors during deep non-REM sleep. Often these can lead to individuals conducting an entire array of activities as if they were wide awake, including driving long distances. Based on this lead, Kenneth agreed to undergo a series of sleep therapy sessions. The results showed Kenneth would go from stage 4, the deepest level of sleep, straight to wakefulness without passing through any of the other stages. This causes him to sleepwalk due to him not being completely awakened from sleep during this transition. Some people with this condition can become aggressive if they are suddenly awakened. These episodes are exacerbated during times of intense stress, much like the situation Kenneth found himself in. During the trial, several expert witnesses who studied Kenneth testified he suffered from a sleeping disorder, and he was indeed sleepwalking during the entire ordeal. Because of the familiarity of this 20-kilometer route, from his home in Pickering to his in-laws in Scarborough, his brain could make the journey for him while he was completely unaware. When Barbara attempted to wake him, this sent him into a violent outburst, leading to the attack. According to one theory presented by expert testimony, Kenneth was essentially acting out the next day's activities, the day he would have admitted his debt, unemployment, and theft from his wife's savings account. Based on the evidence presented by the defense, Kenneth Parks was acquitted. Number 4. From Christmas joy to a blaze of fear. On Christmas morning, a recorded warning echoed through downtown Nashville just moments before an RV exploded. It was the morning of Christmas 2020 in Nashville, Tennessee. The year had been one of anxiety for the world. The people of Nashville were sound asleep as the bells approached 5 a.m. Instead of the sounds of sleigh bells or alarm clocks, residents on 2nd Ave awoke to a loudspeaker. With the days of sleep slowly washing away, the residents heard a voice echoing down the street. "Stay clear of this vehicle," it said. "Do not approach this vehicle. Your primary objective is to evacuate these buildings now." Nearby officers had responded to reports of shots fired, but they heard the loudspeaker's ominous messages. As they approached the street, they came across an RV parked next to the AT&T network facility. Around the RV were the loudspeakers, the messages on a pre-recording playing on repeat. Officers also observed several cameras positioned on the RV in all directions. The officers and residents were understandably confused, but it was clear something strange was happening. Then came a warning everyone feared. The recording warned that a 15-minute timer had begun, and people needed to leave the area now. Realizing the severity of the situation, officers radioed for reinforcements, and for the hazardous devices unit, pedestrians were being redirected out of the area, and other officers were clearing the streets and planning an evacuation. The time hit 6:30 a.m. As officers awaited further emergency personnel, the morning was interrupted by an orange glow, rising flames, and a deafening bang. Debris flew down the street, along with flames and shattered glass. One officer had been in the blast area only moments before, but had returned to his vehicle around the corner just in time. Officers deployed protective vests and returned back to the scene. The RV was gone, now a twist of metal and engulfed in flames. A shockwave caused damage to several businesses and homes, with one building partially collapsing from the explosion. The morning was now consumed by the sounds of car alarms and fire alarms. Officers on scene relayed the situation to dispatch. Fire and medical arrived on the scene within a couple of minutes of the explosion and immediately raced into action. 41 establishments suffered damage and 8 bystanders were injured, but were discharged from hospital later that day. The entire block was evacuated and searched for any other devices, but thankfully none were found. As first responders approached the wrecked RV, it was discovered that there was an occupant in the RV at the time of the explosion. Agents from the Memphis FBI office were dispatched to the scene. and it was initially believed to be an act of terror. They were joined by ATF and state investigators to determine the type of device used in the explosion and any motives behind the act of devastation. As the weeks went by, and as residents were returning to their homes in the area, a picture was forming about the identity of the perpetrator. The body found in the wreckage was identified as Anthony Quinn Warner, a middle-aged, Nashville-born man. While investigating Warner's history, it was initially believed he was not known to the police. However, further searching found that a neighbor had reported Warner to the police in August 2019. Police failed to contact Warner, but a surveillance team was stationed around his house. This provided no definitive evidence, and the case was closed. Warner was described as a man who mostly kept to himself, with neighbors saying he was quiet but overall friendly. He would greet his neighbors when they said hello in passing, but apart from that, he lived a reclusive life. A search of Warner's home found several surveillance cameras overlooking his backyard driveway, where witnesses stated he parked his RV. They further stated the RV had sat on his property for years. In the weeks leading up to the incident, Warner quit his job and began giving away items, including his car. He even sold his duplex to a Los Angeles woman for the sum of $0. According to the person who was given the car, Warner told her he had cancer, but whether he actually did remains unconfirmed. Investigators later stated they found no evidence of a political or ideological motive and concluded Warner acted alone. Authorities said the available evidence suggested his actions were driven by personal stress that intensified throughout 2020. One neighbor had seen Warner a few days before when he was retrieving his mail. The two said hello, and the neighbor asked if Warner was expecting anything good from Santa. In reply, Warner said, "Yes, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be so famous Nashville will never forget me." Number 3. They had eyes and ears everywhere. These students were given free laptops for school, unaware that the cameras could be activated remotely. The Lower Merion School District is in Philadelphia and had roughly 2,300 students enrolled during the 2009 to 2010 school year. By this time, smartphones were more common, as were laptops and tablets. It must have been a pleasant surprise for the students at Lower Merion when the district announced that a laptop would be provided to each of them. According to Superintendent Christopher McGinley, the reason for this was to shift learning to a, quote, mobile 21st century learning environment. The laptops came with rules, including no video games and no illegal activity to be done from the devices. The first hint something strange was going on was when 15-year-old Blake Robbins was asked to the principal's office on November 11, 2009. When he arrived, he was immediately bombarded with accusations that he was in possession of and even dealing illicit substances. Robbins was surprised and confused, and then he was shown a photo allegedly of him holding the illegal items. This is when he became more puzzled. The photo was indeed of him, but it wasn't taken by another person. The photo was taken from his school-provided laptop and was taken from inside his room. Robbins hadn't taken the photos himself. The school officials refused to say where they received the photos from. Robbins' parents were concerned and furious, hired a lawyer, and sued the school district. Under a court order, the district was required to release all photos they had taken of Robbins off his laptop. To the surprise of all, there were approximately 400 images of Robbins taken automatically over time, including ones of him sleeping. With this revelation, the FBI announced an investigation into whether students' webcams had been activated without proper notice or consent. As agents began gathering evidence, Robbins and his family faced scrutiny. It was alleged that the lawsuit was just a cash grab. It appeared things weren't looking great for Robbins' case. Then the FBI began revealing its findings. They discovered the school-issued laptops contained software called Theft Track. It is an application that allows a person to take photos from their laptop camera remotely in the event the laptop is stolen. A further 36 laptops provided by the school were found to have remotely taken photos of students without the user's knowledge or consent. Robbins' sister Paige spoke of how the thought of there possibly being inappropriate photos of her was terrifying. The district stated the software wasn't used for embarrassing photos. It was only used if unethical behavior was suspected. The FBI decided not to press charges. As for the photo that broke the scandal, the FBI determined the item Robbins was holding was not an illegal substance. but was actually a deformed chocolate bar. Number 2. He walks tall, but at what cost? A man became a national folk hero after his wife was murdered. Buford Pusser was born and raised in Adamsville, Tennessee. Buford's father was the town's police chief, and to continue a family tradition, Buford joined the sheriff's office as an officer. In 1964, Buford ran for sheriff against the incumbent James Dickey. However, James passed away in a car accident, and thus Buford was elected to office. He quickly gained a tough-on-crime reputation and a no-nonsense attitude. He was said to destroy illegal gambling tables personally with a pickaxe. During 1965 alone, Buford shut down 87 moonshine stills in the county. This gained him many enemies in the criminal underworld, and there were several attempts on his life. In November 1964, he was ambushed by gang members and stabbed 7 times, but could return to work soon after. The man seen as his arch-nemesis was named Kirksey Nix, leader of the Dixie Mafia. Buford had shut down several of his operations, and Nix is believed to be behind several assassination attempts on Buford. In 1966, Buford responded to a robbery call and was confronted by Louise Hathcock. She shot at Buford, striking him 3 times. Despite his injuries, Buford returned fire and fatally wounded Louise. Aside from his role as sheriff, Buford was a family man as well. He met his wife Pauline in Chicago while he was working as a wrestler. Together they had 1 daughter named Dwana, and the 3 of them moved back to Adamsville in the early 1960s. On the morning of August 12, 1967, Buford was at home when he received a phone call regarding a disturbance on a back road. His wife rode along with him to the scene, and the 2 left shortly after. As the couple approached the scene, Buford claimed another car pulled up beside them and opened fire. Buford ended up stopping in a ditch. Both he and his wife were gravely injured. As the pursuing vehicle sped off, Buford suffered serious injuries and remained in hospital for 18 days, plus further surgeries afterward. Sadly, his wife did not survive. Overcome with grief, Buford vowed to avenge his wife and bring the suspects to justice. Buford alleged Nix was behind the attack and that it was done as a favor to Louise's husband. Nix denied that he was involved in the attack, but the pressure mounted on him by Buford and the sheriff's office forced him to flee. Eventually, he was convicted of a separate crime in Louisiana and sentenced to life. Another alleged perpetrator was a known hitman, whose body was discovered 2 years following the attack in Mississippi. While the case remains unsolved, some have speculated that Buford may have been responsible, further adding fuel to his already growing legend. Despite not fully getting his revenge, Buford's story gained the attention of movie producers. In 1973, an autobiographical film called Walking Tall was released in cinemas. It dramatizes Buford's life and the events before and following the attack. At the film's conclusion, Buford's story is depicted as inspiring the townspeople to vandalize the establishments owned by the Dixie Mafia. He became a folk hero across the country. His life would be cut short in 1974 when he crashed his car in an embankment just outside Adamsville. Buford's story continued to be a selling point, with Walking Tall receiving 3 film sequels, a TV series, and a remake in 2004 starring Dwayne Johnson. What the public didn't know is that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation still had the case open and actively continued to investigate the attack. Throughout the course of the investigation, several aspects of Buford's life and marriage were discovered, and it was far from perfect. Sources say Pauline sought to leave her marriage as early as 1964, though no divorce materialized. However, it is known she was treated for a broken nose shortly before the attack. People who knew the Pussers admitted it seems strange. Pauline would volunteer to accompany her husband on a call-out. However, people took Buford's word that he and his wife were attacked and Nix was responsible. In November 2025, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation publicly raised a disturbing theory that challenged the long-accepted version of events. While reviewing the medical examiner's findings, Dr. Michael Revell found several wounds on Pauline, which contradicted Buford's testimony. The wounds did not line up with the bullet holes found in the car. Revell determined Pauline was shot outside the car, then placed into the seat. An examination of Buford's wound to his cheek, burns, and powder marks showed he had been shot at close range, not from another vehicle. Based on these findings, the Tennessee Bureau investigators said the evidence raised serious questions about whether Buford's account was accurate. Investigators suggested the scene may have been staged, but no charges were ever brought forward, and we will never know what truly happened on that day. Number 1. Terror in the halls of the holy. A woman arrived early to teach a workout class and crossed paths with someone wearing full SWAT gear inside a church. Missy Bevers was a Texas-born mother of 3. She worked as a fitness instructor for Camp Gladiator boot camps. Missy was the head instructor of the local Camp Gladiator, operating out of the parking lot of the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas. Missy told the participants that the April 18, 2016 class, her last, would be held inside the church due to heavy thunderstorms. CCTV footage shows Missy arriving at the church at 4:18 a.m. with her gear, and she enters to make preparations for her class. At 5 a.m., one participant entered the church and was shocked to find Missy lying on the floor unresponsive. Emergency workers arrived soon after, but it was already too late. The incident sent shockwaves throughout the town, as Missy's family were joined by friends and community members in their grief over the horrific circumstances. Police determined foul play was involved, with Missy having several wounds to her head. Detectives began collecting evidence immediately and checked the church's CCTV recordings. At the timestamp of 4 a.m., the cameras captured a mysterious figure wandering the halls of the church. The suspect was dressed in SWAT-style tactical gear, a heavy helmet, a balaclava, what appears to be a tactical vest, and combat boots. On the vest are the words "police" written in bold. The individual was seen walking through the halls, breaking glass cases and attempting to open doors in the church's hallway. The suspect possessed a pry bar, which is believed to be how they entered the church and later attacked Missy Bevers. Because the suspect had complete covering over all features, they could not determine the identity or even the gender of the individual. Based on forensic techniques and calculations, they have stated the person is approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall and walked with a distinguishable gait. The discovery sent alarms throughout the community. The clothing appears to be an authentic SWAT uniform. What also remains a mystery is the suspect's motives, considering they were smashing glass and attempting to access locked doors could show a robbery. However, there is no information if anything was stolen. Missy was reported to not have any enemies, making this a targeted act seem unlikely. All those who were close to Missy were questioned by police and cleared as suspects, mainly due to them having backed up alibis. As of 2026, the case remains unsolved. Unfortunately, the lack of physical evidence has completely stalled the investigation. This is what's so unsettling about the crime. Despite the footage, investigators have not been able to identify the person. As far as we know, the suspect has never acted again. This episode is sponsored by Proton VPN, protonvpn.com/chills. If you sign up using my link, I earn a commission, which helps support the podcast. Now, I use Proton VPN personally. Proton is located in Switzerland and is therefore backed by Swiss privacy laws, which are some of the strongest privacy laws in the world. And in addition, Proton has a strict no-log policy. I was honestly baffled by how much faster the speeds were compared to my old VPN. Plus, they have 15,000 servers in 120 countries, apps for all major devices and platforms, and unlimited bandwidth. Sign up using my link, protonvpn.com/chills, and they'll give me a commission, which helps support the podcast. This has been the Chills Podcast, and I just want to say thank you very much for listening. My name is Chills. Check out my first album, Sawiskara, which is built around a story from Iroquois mythology about twin brothers, one of light and one of darkness. The album focuses on my connection to Sawiskara, the brother tied to darkness, which to me represents the hard parts of life that push growth and strength. The songs center on personal growth, self-reflection, and handling life's challenges. The album is available on all streaming platforms and is linked in the description. And please follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces, X at YT_chills, and TikTok at Chills. This podcast was made in collaboration with Jonah and Karina. Until next time, bye-bye.